Saw dudes, there has been very little Warframe content on the channel recently, so I apologize. Destiny 2 has been picking up, but it's time to switch gears. Some folks have been asking for an updated Rhino build, and I had to oblige. Rhino is an absolute unit and a frame that you can bring into any part of the game and find success. If you want big damage, a team-wide damage buff, easy crowd control, or unlimited survivability, you pick Rhino. Today's build focuses on making him an unkillable juggernaut with no energy issues so that you can slay out to your heart's content just like Doom Guy. Let's get started. We're going to start with an overview of Rhino's abilities. If you already know how the frame works, feel free to skip to the build section. Juggernaut's passive causes hard landings with the ground to discharge a shockwave that deals impact damage and knockdown in the 6-meter area of effect. The damage itself is minuscule in the grand scheme of things and doesn't do all too much. Hopefully DE changes his passive or buffs in some way down the line. Rhino's first ability is Rhino Charge, which causes him to charge forward 12 meters, dealing 650 impact damage to enemies in the way and ragdolling them. If Iron Skin is active, the damage from Rhino Charge will have a 100% blast status chance. This ability is the weakest in our kit and will be the one we subsume in favor of an Helmet ability. His second ability is Iron Skin, which causes Rhino to harden his skin and receive 1200 base overguard. Rhino's armor is multiplied by 2.5 times, which is also added to the total overguard pool. Upon activating the ability, Iron Skin will remain invulnerable for 3 seconds, during which all damage is absorbed and added to the total health pool of Iron Skin. This is our main form of survivability and tanking damage. Roar is Rhino's third ability and arguably the strongest in terms of damage potential. Upon casting, Rhino releases a massive burp, increasing the damage output of himself and his allies within 25 meters. Rhino and his allies gain a 50% bonus to damage for 30 seconds. Roar is considered a faction damage bonus, which means that its buff is multiplicative to other types of bonus damage. In other words, it acts like a Bane mod found on weapons and double dips for damage over time calculations. And finally, we have Rhino Stomp, causing him to stomp the ground, dealing 800 blast damage to enemies within 5 meters. After a short delay, the second instance of damage is inflicted on enemies within 25 meters. Affected enemies are forced into a tumble, with their movements being slowed by 97.5% over 8 seconds. This ability will be our bread and butter for survivability and crowd control. Rhino's game loop, at least for this build, is extremely simple. At the start of the mission, go into your operator and void sling twice back to back to activate sling strength for a 40% ability strength bonus. Following that, switch back to your Warframe and cast Nourish. Wait for the energy to come rolling in, then cast Roar and Iron Skin. Use Stomp to refresh Iron Skin health and CC enemies. Recast Nourish, Iron Skin, and Roar as needed, using Sling Strength to increase the potency of the buffs. Rinse and repeat. Today's video only has one build variant and uses Nourish as the Helmet ability. As already mentioned, we will subsume over Charge, since it does not have any use in this build. I will go over the strength of Nourish right after covering this mod setup. The goal with the build is to stack up as much ability strength as possible, so we will be using Growing Power in the Aura slot. The bonus 25% ability strength will be great for all of our abilities, but especially for Nourish and Roar. Power Drift stacks on even more strength, but it is a bit redundant due to the fact that it grants knockdown resist. Iron Skin already grants full immunity to knockdown, so if you want, you can sacrifice some strength for range and sub this mod out for Cutting Drift. Prime Flow increases our maximum energy capacity to 427 and is required. This build may regen energy quickly, but it burns through it quickly as well. Prime Continuity increases ability duration, which lowers our energy expenditure over time by reducing the need to recast Nourish and Roar. The next 3 mods, Transient Fortitude, Blind Rage, and Umbral Intensify, all increase ability strength to a staggering 313%. This is massive for increasing our energy multiplier with Nourish and damage scaling with Roar. Rolling Guard is a failsafe in case Iron Skin fails and we run out of energy, which will rarely happen. Rolling Guard also works on Iron Skin too, so if you just want it to last longer, you can roll into a crowd and slay out. Energy Nexus holds the whole build together by providing 3 energy per second. With Nourish active, this number increases to about 9 energy per second. So yeah, you're basically in a perpetual loop of energy generation, just like Gojo and his reversed curse technique. Finally, we have Reinforcing Stomp, which restores 4% of our built-up Iron Skin per enemy hit by the ability. In level cap, our Iron Skin can easily reach in the millions, so this augment is nice to have. However, if you don't feel the need to use it, you can swap it out for even more ability strength with Augur's Secrets. As already mentioned, our Helmet ability for this build will be Nourish, since it completes the energy regeneration loop and plays perfectly into our weapon options. I know it seems uninspired, but trust me, it's worth it. With our current mod setup, barring our Focus School and Arcanes, Nourish provides a 2.88 energy multiplier and a 140% viral damage increase. A 2.88 energy multiplier converts our 3 energy per second from Energy Nexus to about 8.64. Keep in mind that the Nourish nerf was actually a blessing in disguise. Because Nourish's viral damage was toned down, we can confidently use it with weapons that use other status effects to deal most of their damage. In other words, it doesn't mess up elemental distribution too much despite our high ability strength. The best arcane options for this build are Arcane Avenger, Arcane Ice Storm, Molt Augmented, and Molt Efficiency. Arcane Avenger works with Iron Skin now since the health from the ability is now Overguard. If you want to take your damage to the next level for basically no change in gameplay, this is a very safe choice. Arcane Ice Storm might seem like an odd choice, but it's pretty nice if you choose to use a cold-based weapon, such as the Tenet Glaxion or Epitaph. Roar and Nourish benefit from both ability duration and ability strength, which this arcane provides. However, it is a bit annoying to proc, and it does limit your options with weapons. If you manage to use a weapon that can proc it, definitely give it a go. Molt Augmented is a safe choice since it offers power strength simply on kills. If you have a free slot and want to buff all of your abilities easily, this is a clear winner. If you don't want to use Arcane Avenger or Ice Storm, the final option is Molt Efficiency. The 36% bonus to ability duration is easy to upkeep thanks to Iron Skin and allows us to conserve energy a bit easier thanks to having a longer ability duration. I'm pretty sure you saw this coming, but the focus school we want to use is Madurai. This focus school is great for the whole build, and we don't need the extra energy generated by Zenerig. Power transfer makes the casting speed for all of Rhino's abilities much faster. It just makes Rhino's kit easier to bear since his casting animations can be quite slow. I find this perk to be especially useful when casting Iron Skin since it reduces the chance that you'll get gunned down when put under heavy fire. Sling Strength is another ability strength steroid, which is great for Nourish and Roar. This will help us with our outgoing weapon damage and is just nice to have in general. Even though we aren't idle on hunting, having Void Strike in the arsenal is a great bonus. Roar does stack with Void Strike, so it's a big red button for priority targets like Rogue Necromechs or Acolytes. Additionally, while Void Strike is active, we also gain access to Void Fuel, which grants 40% weapon efficiency for Operator in Warframe. It's a nice way to keep ammo reserves up without having to do very much. The best Archon shard choices for Rhino Prime are Amber for casting speed, Crimson for ability strength, and Emerald shards for armor strip. As per usual, having one Tauforge Amber shard is great. It reduces the chance for you to get one shot without Iron Skin and just makes gameplay easier. Crimson shards offer ability strength, which is super important for Roar since it double dips in damage over time calculations. I would recommend using at least 2 Tauforge if you get the chance, since it will bring your damage to a whole other level. If you want to armor strip via corrosive procs, you can use 2 normal emerald shards in the remaining spaces. I use the extra fancy Tauforge versions for Acolytes, but you can totally make do with the normal versions. If you plan to use emerald shards, remember to use a weapon that can leverage status chance, like the Epitaph, Tenet Cycron, or Kuva Nukor. If you don't want to use emerald shards, which is fine, I would just fill up the remaining spaces with Tauforge Crimson shards attuned for more ability strength. Again, this helps out with Nourish and Roar. Before ending the video, I want to discuss what weapon choices you should consider since 99% of our damage will be from them. When using this build, consider using weapons that leverage damage over time, such as Slash, Heat, Toxin, Gas, or even electric damage. Roar acts like a universal Bane mod, meaning that you can take the Bane mod off of your weapons for more raw damage, crit chance, or crit damage. This is amazing for 2 reasons. 1. Faction damage bonuses are factored twice for damage over time, meaning our Roar damage bonus is squared. 2. We don't need to tweak mods on our weapons all too much, so you can be lazy. Some weapons I enjoy using in the primary slot can run Hunter Munitions or Internal Bleeding, which allows for numerous slash procs. Some weapons you can try out are Kuva Chacker, Cedo, or Fenmore. Other weapons that I like don't involve slash, but rely on other procs. Examples of this are Phantasma Prime and Boar Prime and Karnon. Secondary weapons generally follow the same rule. They don't have Hunter Munitions, but they do have Hemorrhage, which works just like Internal Bleeding. I like using Epitaph for this reason, and also Akjagra Prime. For heat status damage, I like my trusty Buvabukor. Finally, for melee weapons, use anything that is weighted in slash. There are a ton of options, but the most notable ones are Nakana Prime, Praetos, and Glaive Prime. One other option for electric damage is Zorus, and it works extremely well. Okay everyone, that is pretty much it for the video. I'm sorry for the long delay. Work and school are kicking my butt, but I'm glad to have gotten out an updated build. I am seeing a lot of requests for builds, so I am happy to oblige. Let me know what you guys think, and if you have any suggestions or thoughts, please leave them in the comments. As always, thank you all for watching, and happy farming. Stay safe.